occur on Lairlac Crest. But that could very well change with the new map changes that will be coming in February 9th and the changes of the third base. But here we are on Lairlac Crest in the top right-hand corner. It is the Orange Terran player, Beastyqt.
And spawning down in the bottom right, it is our red Zerg from Root Gaming. It is JimRising. So it would not at all surprise me to see more macro out of JimRising. Beastyqt, he tried shenanigans in the last game, and it actually worked. So I wonder if he's going to macro again, or if he's just going to be a little cheeky.
Well, to be quite frank, it wasn't even quote-unquote shenanigans. It was more of just a solid 2-base play in a position where JimRising, as you said a couple times, he may have just kind of started to flail, get a little bit scared, and was not able to execute how he'd want to against that 2-base.
That's
in this
true.
position, it may favor JimRising to do some Ling drops or Ling pressures because of the 2 ways in the natural, and it is a little bit harder to do 2-base plays because counterattacks, which are possible for Zerg play, but overall, I don't think it would be that bad. He could easily do drops, that is Beastyqt, into JimRising's natural.
Looks like it's going to be, we've got actually a quicker reactor here, but Beastyqt, what are his plans? I think he's just making sure there's nothing really afoot. Looks like he wants to expand again here soon. And for JimRising again, not surprisingly, we have got Hatch Gas Pool. Really seems to favor this style.
Hatch Gas Pool is pretty much his middle of the road, and on a map like this, even though we do see a little bit of a tendency in ZVZs, things like that for the early aggression, JimRising, very macro. He loves being focused on that, and he does well with it. And with Queens, it's very safe against any of the crazy Banshees, etc.
Yeah, so he'll do pretty well versus a lot of things that could be thrown at him at this moment. Looks like Beastyqt opting for that factory next. So nothing too crazy as we saw in the last game.
Looks like the Overlord will be sniped down, but this is very important for Beastyqt to eliminate, as I was mentioning. Drops are very common on this map, something in the beginning of Legacy of the Void wasn't as popular, but it's starting to always itch its way into there.
Yeah, and they can, if you're not ready for a drop, they can still be pretty devastating. And there's a lot of, empty space. There's a lot of fog of war that you could still kind of drop into. But I don't think that's what we're going to see here in this game.
2 Lings, preemptive Lings, go across the map with those Overlords. Really, right now, JimRising is trying to feel out what Beastyqt is doing, because, of course, Beastyqt is, as we saw last game, a 2-base play, which could be the detriment and could be the how JimRising falls in this. JimRising 3-base, while Beastyqt, with the bunker, is going to be okay.
Yeah, and Beastyqt behind this, he's getting a tech lab on his factory. Wouldn't surprise me to see that swapped with the starport and then a Banshee being started. In fact, with the starport so close to that factory, I am almost certain that's what we'll see.
Very close. Banshee is finding its own little niche within the overall TVZ meta, which is to be Liberator. And I guess Siege Tanks for Beastyqt. Now, this is a little bit of an alternate method to deal with that heavy roach style, especially on a map like Lairlac Crest with a big natural base. There's so much room that the Siege Tank, it needs to be able to shell for a while, and it gives it that opportunity with the largest of the natural. You need more area of defense to hold a natural like this. You can even see because Beastyqt trying to get up a wall. Overall, he's a little bit afraid of a 3-base push from JimRising. But, I mean, JimRising just may give him all the air breathing room he needs because of his playstyle of macro.
That is true. We've seen JimRising mech it. He hasn't been insanely aggressive. I mean, he's definitely taken advantage of of certain plays, but, I wouldn't be surprised if JimRising just kind of sat back and macroed up.
That would be pretty good, but I guess that'd give Beastyqt a lot of room to be aggressive, especially with Liberators. If you don't shut them down, if you don't provide mutas to shut them down, and that's all your opponent has to do, they don't have to worry about any counterattacks, they can do a lot of damage.
Yes, they can. We do have a lair coming out now for JimRising. However, one of the Liberators already doing some damage at that natural. And just preventing a lot of mining. Liberators, they can be annoying. They can kill your drones. But I think the biggest danger is that they actually prevent so much mining from going on.
Two Ravagers are out to hopefully be able to deny it, but two Ravagers do not snipe a Liberator. It's going to be a little dicey. There's the third one coming on in. All this time is giving a lot of time for Beastyqt to accumulate siege tanks back at home. And another Liberator is going to start killing Overlords. This is going to be a much more potent two-base play than last game. Two more racks are being added on. Tech Lab is there. No stim and no combat shields, interestingly enough, yet. But Beastyqt is kind of aiming for that mid-game 8 to 10 minute mark push-out.
Yeah, and he's doing some damage behind this. He's killing these Overlords, which well, they won't supply block anymore, but they did force out a lot of Overlords, and that larva could have been used for something else.
Marines push down to the bottom right, looking to take a third CC, possibly. No third CC is being made yet. +1 engineering bay also. Beastyqt is so ready and is natural for a Baneling something all in, but with that being prepared for an attack like that, he also has a phenomenal army he's accumulating. And I'm really curious how that third base, that new change with the rock towers automatically being down, will affect this play. If you would have seen a really quick third CC from Terran, something akin to that on these maps.
Yeah, that's definitely going to open up some new potentials on this map. I think it's a pretty interesting change, and I think we might see more players start to, figure out new strategies with that. In fact, I'm kind of curious. I might unveto it to try it again.
Ravagers pushing in on the right-hand side. Yeah, you could actually learn a lot of cool stuff. Getting used to it before anything happens. Siege tanks repositioned. There'll be no leapfrogging in these waters for the siege tanks. They're not going to be doing that. Roaches full surround on that third base's rocks. Liberators are liberating, but this is all going to happen once they push us in. And right now, I'd rather have Beastyqt, the medevac on the other side of the map, to also put counter pressure on. Or else JimRising is going to be able to, he's even got creep ready. He's going to be able to put so much pressure if Beastyqt doesn't do anything about him.
Yeah, this is still kind of, it's still up in the air, but both players need to be very careful. Burrow on the wave, though, for JimRising. This could prove for some interesting harass, to say the least. Could also kind of split units up, burrow some into a mineral line, burrow some another area, and do a lot of damage.
Focus Beastyqt on his own bases instead of that aggression, which we haven't seen as much quite, but that would be a great move by JimRising. I agree. Lots of bio for Beastyqt, but you got to remember, stim and combat shields only finishing now. There they are, finishing literally right this second. It is the 8 minute mark, and like I was saying, he's moving out for that timing attack. There is no third CC. There's nothing like that. He may have tripped JimRising into thinking that it's going to happen, but now Jim falls back. Creep Spread will see this army moving out, but what, 4 siege tanks, 5 siege tanks, 2 Liberators, and my oh my, 57, almost 60 Marines. JimRising, he's going to need a miracle to pull through this.
Yeah, this is looking very scary for JimRising, but he moves forward. Biles go down some decent shots, but these Liberators...
GG!
GG! Beastyqt takes game 2. Excuse me, game 3 to to go up 2-1. That's what I was trying to say. Numbers.
I'm out right now. I said 3-1 JimRising. I am out, but you said 3-2, so
I did.
JimRising better be able to take it back. I feel like Beastyqt, he found his strategy. He's like, wait, macro doesn't work, but the 2-base all-in, that works.
2-base all-in, yeah. I think he's kind of figured out here. So our next game going to be on Central Protocol. This map, it can be difficult to take a third base, to say the least.
Depends on the spawns, but yeah, for Terran, it's dicey. Often Terrans are forced to, as we've seen earlier today, Koshkii and I saw, 3 racks Reaper because it's hard to take that third CC. But sometimes, with vertical spawn positions, you can take that third gold base, but generally it's the Zergan. Man, Koshkii, it is rough. It's rough to do.
Yes.
Any thoughts on what they should be doing here on this map?
I love 2-base all-ins, but, it's still, I can't say I'm not a Terran player. My Terran is honestly Bronze League, but if you just decide not to take a third and go for a bit of an all-in, I'm cool with that. I think that's a pretty strong strategy, but like I said, I am not Terran. Don't take my advice.
And especially if a Zerg was going for, in the vertical spawn positions, that gold base, easily you could punish it like Beastyqt did to JimRising on, I believe it was Preon Terraces with a quick third gold base. Something a little bit similar to that could go down. Actually, almost exactly similar to Preon Terraces, 3x Reaper versus an early Roach Warren. But also, on the other hand, we saw JimRising easily defend a 3-Rex Reaper in the previous series, then macro, get up to Ultras, and just smush. I'm starting to make up my own words at this point.
Ultras are very, very strong, even more so in LOTV. I mean, they were strong in HOTS, but LOTV, they are unreal, at least with armor upgrades.